Hello and welcome to the Flaneurs. It's a gorgeous Tuesday afternoon in early September. I'm wandering around the City of London in my lunchtime. I've made my way to the junction of Cannon Street and Queen Victoria Street. I'm going to have a little deep dive and walk around Garlick Hill that we saw on a previous walk. We didn't explore the area, but we went past it, and I mentioned it at the time that it would be a place of interest. So let's go. Until the 19th century, this area consisted of a series of alleys, lanes and footways running north-south, bisected by Thames Street and St Thomas Apostle. Garlick Hill, where we're now on, was built in the 9th century. It provided access from the haven of Queen Hythe, just to the west of Garlick Hill, onto Cheapside. This area of the City of London, up and to around Cheapside, was known for its food markets, and this is represented in the street names Bread Street, Milk Street, Poultry, Honey Lane. Also, Garlick Hill will lead us on to Upper Thames Street, and the street itself relates to the original bank of the River Thames, which we've mentioned in previous vlogs as being much wider than it is today. And at the bottom of Garlick Hill there was once a bustling garlic market, hence the name. And whilst we're on the subject of food, let's talk about other related streets that are reasonably close by to where we are now. And these are Corn Hill, Artichoke Hill, Saffron and Herbal Hill that we discovered when we did our Clerkenwell walk, the, in my opinion, favouritely named street, Wormwood Street, Chamomile Street and Vine Street. We're now looking in a westerly direction down Great Trinity Lane, and this was once the location of the Hudson Bay Company that dealt in furs and other commodities. The headquarters, aptly named Beaver House, remained the official headquarters of the company until relocation to Canada in 1970. And the trading of furs and skins is something that's very relevant to this area. Soon we'll be walking down Skinner's Lane, and that's very appropriate around this subject, and we'll discuss more then. And we're very close to Dalgate Hill, and people of a certain age may remember a pub there called the Pelt Trader. Apologies there, of course the Pelt Trader is still open. For some bizarre reason I thought it had closed, but apologies. The Pelt Trader is still very much open for business. Anyway, let's continue our walk down this wonderful narrow alleyway as we head towards the famous church at the end of Garlick Hill. But before we get there, let's have a look at this very smart hotel on the left hand side called Finchley and Mercer. Now, very close to the church that we're going to see in a few moments, just over the other side of Upper Thames Street, is the Guild Hall of the Worshipful Company of Vintners. So with the trading of furs that we've already mentioned, this area of the City of London was also famous for its wine merchants. And we're looking through the gates here at a place called Miniver Place. I couldn't find much information on the internet about it. I wonder if it is the shortest street or something like that in the City of London. There's other places of a similar name in London, but as I said, I just couldn't get much information on it. But I guess it's something to do maybe with the Mercers and Finchley worshipful companies. Anyway, it looks a great place of intrigue, doesn't it? I wonder where that alleyway leads to. So we're just having a sneaky look back from where we've walked. So we're now nearly at the end of Garlick Hill. Randomly I've decided to take a left turn just at the church. We'll come back to describe the church in a few moments. Now we're going down the famous Skinner's Lane. Now this really describes the trade of the area. We're close to Skinner's Hall, and the art of skinning was the preparation, shall we say, of furs used for garments for people of a certain rank. All I know is that the preparation of the skins must have been an incredibly smelly occupation, and we talk about the skill of tanners. We mentioned it on our Rotherhithe walk a few months ago, and what a skilled but dirty and rather nasty profession. So the smells of this area must have been quite intoxicating back in medieval and Tudor times. There's a long association with skinners in this area. They're first mentioned as owning tenements in the Walbrook area, and of course we're within 100 yards or so of Walbrook Street. And whilst I'm walking down Skinner's Lane, I just had to look at this little alleyway that shows the view of Upper Thames Street. There's so many of these little wonderful alleyways in the City of London, and if you visit, just take your time to look down them. It just gives you a different view of the City of London. So many people in this hustling, bustling city of trade and business just rush through these areas. We're just passing Dobie Court, and there was a publication that described this building before us. I won't mention the name of that publication, but it's rather vicious in its appraisal, and it mentions this dark red brick 1980s building which incorporates the entrance to Dobie Court, is weakly designed with an inactive ground floor that deadens the street. I can't really disagree with those sentiments. And to carry on the theme of fur trading, now I know we're jumping in between different subjects, but as we said, there was an association with fur trading and Walbrook, and fur trading was carried out from the early medieval period, with the waters of the Walbrook initially used to wash the furs, which were largely imported from Russia and Scandinavia. And of course our friends the Hanseatics were associated with this trading in furs, and of course we mentioned that if you watch the vlogs in our recent Germany upon Thames video. Now I finally made it to the church. Now we're at the church of St James, Garlick Hill. We've come across this appealing statue unveiled on the 11th of July 2007, made by Vivian Mallock, and the statue shows the figure of the barge master and swan marker, accompanied by a very realistic figure of a swan. The Church of St James, Garlick Hill is the official church of 11 city livery companies. And the church's nickname, Wren's Lantern, owing to its profusion of windows. And as we mentioned earlier, Garlick Hill refers to the nearby landing place or hithe near which garlic was sold in medieval times. The ships from France loaded with garlic also carried wine, and St James has a long association with wine merchants, which we'll see the evidence of quite shortly. You can see the bunch of grapes adorned on the railings outside the church. Now in 1860, Charles Dickens attended a Sunday service at this church, which he describes in his book The Uncommercial Traveller. Just walking up Little Trinity Lane now. This is a respite. It's about 85 degrees today, so it's quite welcome to walk in the shade for a few moments. And we can see on our right a familiar sight of walking around the City of London is city workers going out for a cheeky fag or a cheeky vape. On the left we can see the Worshipful Company of Painters. Now, an organisation of painters of metals and wood is known to have existed in the City of London from 1283. Today, as with many other livery companies, worshipful companies and guilds, it is essentially a charitable company. However, the painters promote education in the fine and decorative arts and crafts. One of the other benefits of these wonderful worshipful companies, guilds, livery companies, is the buildings. We've seen many of them in our vlogs, far too many to mention here. But really what you're doing is preserving these great buildings, and we're seeing the City of London change so much building, so many of these featureless, drab, sort of glass and chrome buildings, that these companies, these buildings are really just a real joy to see, just something to behold that's different from just the mundane. Anyway, that's enough preaching for the moment. We've made our way into the fantastically named Hoggin Court. Now, it was called Hoggin Lane in the 14th century from the Old English hoggin, a lane where hogs were kept. The great London historian John Stowe, however, believed that it was named after Hugin, a 13th century resident, and that the name was Hugin in the Lane. And before us we can see a magnificent garden and haven of peace in the City of London, and we will describe more about that in a few moments. The area has a strong Roman connection. In 1964 the remains of a Roman bath were discovered here, and they had been built around 75 AD using this vast supply of water from the River Thames. The garden here is named after Fred Cleary, who during the 70s was instrumental in encouraging the planting of trees and the creation of new gardens throughout the square mile. Mention must also be made of Joseph Brandis, who was a city worker and Keaton gardener, who decided to turn the space into a public garden using plants and soil from his own garden in Walthamstow and mud from the river. And you can see a few city workers perhaps, or maybe they're tourists, just enjoying a few moments of chill out around the busy streets of the City of London. Fred Cleary was chairman of the Metropolitan Public Gardens Association, known as Flowering Fred. And we must thank him and Joseph Brandis for the wonderful sight that we see before us. I'm attempting now just to give you a brief panorama of the gardens around here. And in 2007 a series of grapevines were planted along the upper terrace, a gift from the winemakers of the Loire Valley. And before us we can see some wonderful Rebecca. I wish mine were as good as that. I used to work in an office at the end of Queen Victoria Street, very close to Blackfriars Bridge, and I must have walked up and down Queen Victoria Street thousands of times, and I've never noticed this place until now. And that just shows you can be in a city for years and years but not really know it. Well, you never really know it anyway, but walking around doing a vlog at least gives you that history that otherwise you would miss. I've been doing these vlogs for almost 2 years now, and I've learnt a lot, but it also cements how little I know and how much more I've got to learn. But that's the beauty of London, isn't it? It's that eternal challenge. Whatever happens, it's just, there's so many stories, there's so many different features that you'll never get to know it. It's that never-ending journey, that never-ending quest to understand the City of London. You know you'll never get there, but the journey is sure worthwhile. And I guess that's what the City of London or the London vlogger is just trying to do. It's just trying to give you their impression on the city, and hopefully some of you out there enjoy it and take something from it. And we can see the many plaques that this garden has deservedly won over the years, and a plaque showing the tribute from the Loire wine growers. I'm stumbling around a little, not knowing what to do next. Do I spend a bit more time in these wonderful gardens, or do I press on? So I've decided, after some deliberation, to make my way up Lambeth Hill. And before us we can see the Church of St Mary's, Somerset. This was a church first recorded in the City of London in the 12th century and destroyed in the Great Fire of London 1666. The tower of the church is the only part of the church that has survived. The rest of the church was demolished in 1871, and I believe the church is no longer active and is being repurposed, reconditioned as a private residence. And before us you can see a rather magnificent yew hedge. Now, those who have followed the Anglican Flaneurs, and there's very few of you, will know that we love a yew hedge. Again, I'm wondering what to do next. This is what happens when you don't really plan a walk. I've really come out without really knowing where I'm going to go, so I'm just deciding whether I should stay and admire the yew hedge for a few moments or head back to the office. That's it from the Anglican Flaneurs. I finally made the decision. I've got to get back to the office to do some work. So I hope you've enjoyed the vlog, and I hope to see you again soon.